Good morning. Welcome to Cup of Faith. It is Monday morning. Just make sure everything is working okay, that we're going here. Good. Volume. All right. Good morning. I am coming to you this morning, not from my house, which is an oddity for a Monday morning, as I usually I'm not up this early or ready to be out of the house, but it is going to be a busy week. So I don't know what you guys have planned for this week, but in our household, we have some busy kids. Tristan is off to Kettleston for the week. How exciting is that? And Emma is working Mega Sports Camp and taking her bronze medallion swimming. So she is going to be going. So that meant that Mom was up and out of the house quite early. So I thought I'd get a head start and head to the office and get working. So let's get at it then this morning. Let me have one more swig of my coffee and then we'll get into it. All right. So for those of you who joined us for church yesterday online or in person, it was such a great message Pastor Larry had to share to us about leadership. And today I want to touch a little bit about that, but I want to sort of continue some of the things that I've been talking about. I've been on this wisdom kick, talking about just the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of wisdom. And today good morning, Miss Lorraine. Always nice to see you. This morning is my one of the verses that came up. It just pushed me into the same sort of thing. Good morning, Teresita. Nice to see you. It just sort of feels to me like I just am on this wisdom sort of kick. And even as I, preach the last 2 Mondays, it's about worshiping the Creator, not the creation. And I want to dig this home again. So today we're going to read in 2 Kings. So I'm going to say our key verse for today, and I want to go back and just talk it through a little bit in some context. But so we're in 2 Kings chapter 18, and verse 4 says, "He also broke in pieces the bronze snake that Moses had made, which was called Nehushtan. Up to that time, the people of Israel had burned incense in its honor." Okay, so let's go back. We're talking about the Israelites here, and they're, again, not doing very well, sort of have walked away. So we're going to keep going back. 2 Kings in chapter 17, and starting at verse 34, it says, "To this day they persist in their former practices. They neither worship the Lord nor adhere to the decrees and regulations, the laws and commands that the Lord gave the descendants of Jacob, whom he named Israel. When the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites, he commanded them, 'Do not worship any other gods or bow down to them, serve them, or sacrifice to them. But the Lord who brought you up out of Egypt with mighty power and outstretched arm is the one you must worship. To him you shall bow down, and to him offer but they would not this. Even while these people were worshiping the Lord, they were serving their idols. To this day, their children and grandchildren continue to do as their ancestors did." Okay, so we're talking about idol worship. Now, in our culture today, it looks different, and that's sort of what I want to just talk a little bit about here. Back in the Israelites' day and age, the worship of idols was very open in the way of if you did it, people knew that you were doing it. So, I think the first case we sort of see is when the Israelites were wandering in the desert and they made their bronze statue. Now, it wasn't that the Israelites actually set out to worship another god. This is what I found very interesting. Good morning, Rod. Thank you. So it wasn't that the Israelites were like, "I'm going to have this God and I'm going to have that God. When they made that bronze statue, it was because they were just looking for something that they could hold on to. They wanted something that was right in their perspective, something they could understand, something that was in their view, and they were going to worship that in that they were worshiping to God. They still felt that they were worshiping God. They just wanted something that was in our human nature, being able to understand and perceive. Okay, so it wasn't that they were like, here is Baal and I'm going to worship Baal and God. No, it was that statue that they made. It wasn't that they were actually worshiping a calf. They wanted it to represent God. And this is where it really impacts us today. So it's not that I want to set out to not be worshiping God, but it's something as a human nature. I want to be, it needs to be tangible. I want to be able to feel it, see it, reap the rewards from it. So I'm going to read a little bit here about the statue specifically that we were talking about for the Israelites, about the snake. So it says, so one day the Israelites complained bitterly against Moses and God. So God sent poisonous snakes that bit many of them. When the people repented, God told Moses to hammer out a bronze snake and hold it up on a pole, and anyone who had been bitten would look at the bronze snake and be healed. You can understand why the Israelites would hang on to such a symbol of God's power for hundreds of years. It was like a national heritage. You could even understand why they might think it still had healing powers many years later. So again, started out that God gave them this statue and they looked at the statue and they were healed through God's powers, right? So it wasn't that they were worshiping the serpent, they were actually worshiping Jesus. But through so many years, they started to think that it was actually the bronze statue that had power, not Jesus. But somewhere during the centuries, the Israelites began to worship the bronze snake and burn incense to it. When King Hezekiah was destroying idols in Judah, he sarcastically named the snake Nehushtan. That sounds like the Hebrew words for bronze and serpent, but means unclean thing. Then he smashed it into pieces. So God gives us many helpful things, good things. But if we begin to worship those things instead of God himself, or give them too much of our attention, then they become idols and must be destroyed. So, as I've been talking so much, like I said, about wisdom and this pursuit of knowledge, it's been very clear that we need to be careful that we pursue the person who is wisdom and not just wisdom for the sake of wisdom. I think that was last week that we talked about how, God is the creator of all wisdom, and I want to make sure that I am pursuing wisdom for the sake of pursuing my Heavenly Father, not just to become this smart person. No, that was the Pharisees. The Pharisees were smart for the sake of being smart, and they didn't know the heart of God. And I want to be sure that I know the heart of God. And as Larry spoke yesterday about leadership, and we talked so much about that and about how, we really want the promotions and we really want all those things, but with that comes the pressure. And sometimes that pressure is because people put leaders on pedestals or create them to be their idols. So when leaders fall or fail, which we do all the time, it deeply impacts the people that thought we were gods, that thought that we were perfect. And then it shows that you weren't really worshiping God, you were worshiping the person who represented God. So like that golden calf, they were worshiping the calf that represented God. And so when the calf does nothing, when that golden calf can't save them, their faith is shaken, their faith is broken because it was never actually in the Most High God. We see leaders around us today, Christian leaders, good people that are failing, that are making wrong choices. And I think about that. We carry that burden. And why do I think sometimes that leaders, I think they fail in the same way other people fail, but because they've been put on that pedestal, it feels like they fall so much farther. And I feel that that pressure comes because leaders are attacked, because I believe that the devil knows that people aren't really seeing that leader as just a person, but they're seeing them as their God. They've put all their faith in them. So the devil is saying, if I can get that person to fail, I will shake that person's faith. I will shake that person's beliefs, and they won't actually want to follow God anymore because they were never really following God. They were just following a leader. So today, as we are thinking about idols and as we're thinking about wisdom or leadership, and as we put all this stuff together, what is it that is your focus? What are you pursuing each day that is taking the place of God in your life? That if it was to fall away, would it shake your faith? Um, if some for me when I was growing up, it was dance. When I turned 18 years old, dance was no longer an option for me, not because um, I didn't still want to dance, but my body just decided one day, you're done. You're done. You're not dancing anymore. And I kind of had this major fallout from dance. I walked away. But most people at the age of 18, when they graduate, they got to go on with life. Dance is no longer the option. My people, there was this point where I didn't even know what to do, and I didn't know if God was my God anymore. And why was that? Because my faith was very rooted in the fact that I was a dancer and that I could worship God through my dance. And I wasn't very careful. I need to be careful now. And I teach my children and the kids that born to dance that we worship God through our dance. We are not worshiping dance. And so, what is it that starts off very innocent for the Israelites? Look at this serpent and be healed because God's healing comes through. It wasn't that it started off as an idol, but as the people began to need it, I dance for my identity, for who I am. Then, sorry, I think my internet there just sort of kicked out for a second, but if I rely